Plagued by the uncertainties of our modern world, life can seem awfully bleak at times. In our search for purpose, meaning, and certainty, most of us would love to have an inkling of what lies ahead, to have even a glimpse of tomorrow today. In our podcast, Knowing Tomorrow Today, we share from the Bible a wonderful blueprint of hope, which reveals that God wants us to live an abundant life and that He has an amazing future planned for us. Okay, welcome to our podcast, Knowing Tomorrow Today. I'm your host, Merrick Brown. Thank you always for joining me on this journey of hope. I always want to encourage you to like, to subscribe, and to share these messages wherever you listen, right? With your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, and just all who you meet along life's journey. So I always look forward to a good vacation. And hopefully one of these days, I'll be able to book a trip to my home country, Jamaica, in order to get some good rest and good relaxation. Already, I can imagine myself just strolling on a warm, white, sandy beach and just looking out across the tranquil horizon at the turquoise Caribbean Sea. Listen, I can't wait. You know, growing up in Jamaica, I used to wonder why people from countries like the United States or Canada or the UK would go to places like Jamaica periodically. And now that I live in North America, I can certainly understand why. Listen, today, our lives, without question, our lives can be very hectic. I mean, we have many demands for productivity and performance at work, right? We work long hours and often have high stress levels, right? We're always concerned about our financial security, and this often leads to anxiety and uncertainty about our future. And for those of us who live in cities, not to mention that, we often have to deal with crowded spaces, traffic congestion, limited access to nature, and we often feel claustrophobic in these city spaces. And we just have a sense of being disconnected from the natural world at times. Listen, these days, it seems that everyone owns a smartphone, right? So we're always constantly connected. We're always plugged into technology and into social media, not to mention that we are also sleep deprived. Right? We lack quality sleep because of our busy schedules and technology. You know, we use this technology before bedtime and we often have sleep disorders, right? So many people, because they're burned out, are often fatigued and they're irritable. I mean, everyone and everywhere you go is very tired. They're exhausted. They feel as if they're running on fumes. And sure, yes, a vacation to Jamaica might help to relax you for a time, but often after going on a vacation, you may need a vacation to recover from that vacation, right? And so many people are wondering, where can I find some real rest for my weary soul? People are tired and they want to find, where can I find real rest? You know, the Bible actually talks a lot about rest and the importance of rest. In fact, if we go to the book of Exodus, there God tells his people in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 to 11. He tells them there, he says, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest, he says, dedicated to your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons, your daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. Why, he says, why is the reason for this? He says, in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in them, but on the seventh day he rested. Right? That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Again, you find that in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 to 11. So thank God that he had the foresight and that he loves us so much that he knew that we humans would actually need one day off from our busy routine each week to rest and not to do any regular work. On that day, God says that no one in your household should work, even your servants, right? So it's important. Now, notice that this commandment, which is actually part of the 10 Commandments in the Bible, not only applies to the Jewish people, right, but it applies to all of mankind. Now, where does it says this, right? Again, just going to read there, Exodus chapter 20, in verse 11. Remember what God says there. He says, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and everything in them, but on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. And so this commandment is not only a day of rest, it is a day that weekly reminds us that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. And of course, this all happened long before the Jewish people came on the scene in world history. And so the command from God to keep the 7th-day Sabbath is not just for the Jews, friends. It's for all humanity, right? It's for all of us. as it is a reminder that Jesus not only died for us, but that he made us, right? And so how can we know that, the seventh day, what day is actually the seventh day today? Some people believe that the calendar may have changed from God gave that time, Well, all you have to do is to look at any regular calendar to realize that the seventh day is Saturday, that the seventh day is Sabbath. It clearly says so on the calendars there. And also the Bible also tells us, right? It reaffirms what day is the seventh day Sabbath. It says that, the Bible also talks about the seventh day Sabbath as being Saturday. If we go to Luke chapter 23, verse 52 to verse 55, it says, we read there, and this is talking about, after Jesus had died on the cross, and then Joseph of Arimathea had showed up for his body to bury the body. And so it says there in Luke chapter 23, verse 52 to 55, it says, so he, Joseph of Arimathea, went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Then he took the body down from the cross and wrapped it in a long sheet of linen cloth and laid it in a new tomb that had been carved out of rock. Right? Now it says here, this was done, he did all this late on Friday afternoon, right? For the Jews, they call Fridays the preparation day, right? This is the day that comes before the Sabbath day or the seventh day, right? So it says that this was done on Friday afternoon, the day of preparation, as the Sabbath was about to begin. So Joseph went there to the cross. He took down Jesus' body on Friday, which most Christians know as Good Friday, right? And he did this. Jesus was placed on the cross on Friday evening so that the body would be there on the seventh day, right? So it says here, as his body had been taken away, the women from Galilee followed and saw the tomb where his body was laid. Again, you'll find this in Luke chapter 23, verse 52 to 55. And so we know from the New Testament that Jesus died on Friday, or what we call Good Friday as Christians, right? And that he rose on Sunday morning, which is the first day of the week. So on Friday, when Jesus died on the cross, Joseph of Arimathea, he took Jesus' body down from the cross, and Jesus rested in the tomb on the seventh day Sabbath, or Saturday, right? And then he rose on Sunday morning, which is the first day of the week. Now, today, most Christians have adopted Sunday as a day of rest and worship, but there is no command in the Bible for Christians to rest on Sunday, right? You could search from Genesis to Revelation. You will not find such a command, right? Now, personally, I used to believe that Sunday was the day of rest until I discovered that the Bible doesn't actually teach that Sunday is holy. Never mentions that, right? The only command that God gives for us is to rest on the seventh day, which is Saturday. Now, some people say that when Jesus came on the scene, right, when he came to earth, he did away with the Sabbath, right? However, Jesus never did this, right? In fact, Jesus endorsed and reiterated the importance of the seventh-day Sabbath when he was on earth. You find this if you go to Mark chapter 2, verse 27 to 28. Listen to what Jesus says there about the Sabbath in Mark chapter 2, verse 27 to 28. He says, the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people, right? And then he goes on to say, the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath, right? He's not saying here that the Sabbath was done away with. He's saying, listen, the Sabbath was put in place by God to meet the needs of humanity, and that I am even Lord of the Sabbath. So what is he saying here? He's saying he's Lord of the Sabbath. Now, he's saying that he's Lord of the Sabbath, he is very instructive. In other words, Jesus is saying that he is the creator, right, who established the seventh-day Sabbath in the first place, in the beginning, right, after he had finished his work of creating in 6 days. Wow, that's what Jesus is saying when he says, I am Lord even of the Sabbath day, right? He's saying, I instituted the Sabbath day. Now, notice in Mark chapter 2, verse 27, Jesus says here, the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people. In other words, the Sabbath was made to meet our needs, friends. It was to be a blessing to us and our families. It was designed to provide rest for our human restlessness, right? It was given to us as a gift from our Creator to provide rest for our weary souls, right? So let me tell you, right? I really personally look forward to the Sabbath or Saturdays every single week, right? This has been one of the great blessings of my life, right? And I know that if I hadn't discovered this in the Bible, I would be working like 24/7 all the time. And I probably would be really burnt out by now, maybe even dead, right? And so my entire life revolves around the Sabbath. In that I look forward to this mental and physical and spiritual rest that I receive each week when I just put away everything, just rest from my ordinary work on Saturdays. All right. And so what do I do on Saturdays on the Sabbath? Well, I go to church, right? I also have more time. Not that I mean, I do this during the week also, but on Saturdays I have more time for personal worship and personal reflection in Bible study. I mean, I have opportunities to spend quality time with my family and friends. I sometimes spend time in nature. And I find that rest in this way, as God commands me to do, actually refreshes me and prepares me for the entire week. It's very rejuvenating. It's a blessing to me in many ways. So honoring the 7-day Sabbath and resting on that day has been a great blessing to my life. I mean, it has drawn me closer to God, deepened my understanding of His purpose for my life and how He wants me to live. Listen, this is what Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 says, right? And this also speaks to my heart. He says, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, right? God wants us to be rejuvenated, right? He wants us to be renewed. He wants us to be refreshed, right? He says, they will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Friends, if you have not done so as yet, Jesus is inviting you today to enter into His Sabbath rest, right? Into this blessed, sacred time with Him each week. Listen what He says there Jesus knows we're tired, right? He knows we're weary. He knows a lot of people are out there burnt out. And listen what He says there in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. He says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Listen, Jesus calls Himself the Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus is saying, I am the Lord of rest, right? I am the Lord of the 7-day Sabbath. And He's inviting you today to enter into that Sabbath rest with Him, into this wonderful oasis in time that we experience each week. Listen, He's waiting for you to meet Him there in that special time, weekly friends, right? Jesus says, listen, I have rest for your weary souls. Friends, Jesus, the Lord of the Sabbath, also wants you and I to live an abundant and prosperous life. I mean, hear what He says there in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11 to 14. He says, I know what I've planned for you. I have plans to prosper you, He says, not to harm you. I have plans to give you a future filled with hope. When you call out to me in prayer and come to me, I will hear your prayers. If you seek me with all of your heart and soul, I will make myself available to you, He says. Listen, I just want to, as we part, just want to encourage you to remember to like and to subscribe and to share this podcast wherever you listen, because as you do so, you will be helping to spread the gospel into all the world as Jesus has commanded us to do as believers. You can also email me. I have an email address here. It's knowingtomorrowtoday@gmail.com. It's knowingtomorrowtoday@gmail.com. If you have additional questions about the Sabbath, if you have prayer requests, whatever it is, just reach out to me and I'll respond to you. And when I respond, I would actually send you an electronic copy of the book that inspired this podcast. It's called Knowing Tomorrow Today, Glimpses of the Future That Will Change Your Life. I will actually send a free electronic copy of that book to you. Listen, may God continue to bless you. May you find that rest in Jesus that He is offering you. I am Merrick Brown. Until next time, you stay blessed and you stay well. It's gonna get better. Never stay the same. It's gonna get better.